June 1944. Normandy. British Sherman tanks are being slaughtered. The German Tiger tank, 88mm gun, impenetrable armor. British and American Shermans? Their shells bounce off like tennis balls. Allied tank crews called it the death lottery. For Shermans lost for every Tiger killed. The invasion was in jeopardy. But there was one tank the Germans feared. One weapon they gave a special name to. Panzertöter. The tank killer. This is the story of Britain's forgotten tank destroyer and the desperate race to get it to Normandy before the invasion failed. Our story begins in the deserts of North Africa, 1942. British tankers have just encountered a nightmare. The Tiger I, 56 tons of German engineering. Frontal armor, 100mm thick. Side armor, 80mm. Armed with the legendary 88mm gun. British tanks at the time carried the 2-pounder gun. Effective against pre-war tanks. Against a Tiger? Utterly useless. You could unload your entire ammunition store and achieve nothing but alerting the Tiger to your presence. In Tunisia, 1943, the numbers were catastrophic. British Crusader tanks, 40mm of armor, 2-pounder gun. The Tiger could destroy them from 2,000 meters. The Crusader couldn't penetrate a Tiger from any range. Tank crews knew they were riding into battle in mobile coffins. Morale was collapsing. Something had to change. By late 1943, British military intelligence had terrifying news. Germany was producing Tigers and a new monster, the Panther tank. The invasion of France was scheduled for June 1944. The British Army had 6 months to solve a problem they'd failed to fix in 3 years of war. They needed a gun that could kill Tigers, and they needed it mounted in a tank. The solution already existed, but nobody had realized it yet. Meet the 17-pounder anti-tank gun. Developed in 1942, it was the most powerful anti-tank weapon in the Allied arsenal. 76.2mm caliber. Muzzle velocity, 2,900 feet per second. Using armor-piercing discarding sabot rounds, it could penetrate 140mm of armor at 1,000 yards. That meant one thing: it could kill a Tiger from the front. The Americans had nothing like it. The Soviets had nothing like it. This was Britain's secret weapon. But there was a problem. It was a towed gun. Heavy. Slow to position. Vulnerable. German tanks could see it coming and maneuver away or destroy it before it could fire. What the British needed was to mount this beast inside a tank. But which tank? British tank production was a mess. The Churchill was too slow. The Cromwell was too small inside. The 17-pounder wouldn't fit. The Challenger project was behind schedule. Then someone had a controversial idea: use American Shermans. The Americans were mass-producing Sherman tanks. They were reliable, available, and most importantly, already in the supply chain. But the Sherman was designed for a 75mm gun. The 17-pounder was massive by comparison. Shouldn't work. The recoil would be too much. The turret was too small. The ammunition was too long. British engineers in the Royal Ordnance Factory didn't care about shouldn't. They had until June 1944. They cut away the rear of the turret bustle to accommodate the gun's length. They removed the hull machine gunner position and used that space for ammunition. They redesigned the recoil system. They modified the radio placement. By December 1943, they had a prototype. A Sherman tank with a gun that could kill Tigers. It worked. Against all predictions, it worked. The recoil was manageable. The gun was accurate. The Sherman Firefly was born. They had 6 months to build hundreds of them. And they had to keep it secret. D-Day. June 6, 1944. 156,000 Allied troops storm the beaches of Normandy. Among the armor rolling onto French soil, 342 Sherman Fireflies. The Germans had no idea they existed. German reconnaissance saw Shermans, just regular Shermans. They expected the same easy kills they'd been getting for years. But British armored regiments had specific orders. Each tank troop, a unit of 4 tanks, was assigned 1 Firefly, 3 regular 75mm Shermans, and 1 tank killer. But here's the crucial part. The Fireflies were camouflaged to look like regular Shermans. British crews painted the distinctive long barrel with camouflage that made it appear shorter from a distance. They removed unit markings. Some crews even welded on fake muzzle brakes to disguise the gun's profile. The tactic was brilliant and ruthless. German tank commanders would spot a group of Shermans and move in for easy kills. The 3 regular Shermans would fire and deliberately miss or bounce shots off the German armor. The German commander, confident and contemptuous, would close the range for a certain kill. And then, the Firefly would fire. One shot. From a gun the Germans didn't know existed. Mounted in a tank they thought was harmless. Tigers started dying. Panthers started burning. And the Germans couldn't understand why. Like and subscribe, it's about to get better. June 13, 1944. Villers-Bocage. This is where the Firefly earned its reputation. German tank ace Michael Wittmann, 138 tank kills to his name, ambushes a British column with his Tiger. He destroys multiple vehicles in minutes. The British are in chaos. Lieutenant Bill Cotton, commanding a Firefly, maneuvers into a side street. Wittmann's Tiger advances, confident. Cotton waits. 600 yards. The Tiger's side armor is exposed. Cotton's gunner, Trooper Ekins, fires. One shot. Wittmann's Tiger erupts in flames. The most feared tank ace in the German army is stopped by a weapon he didn't know existed. By July 1944, the pattern was clear. In tank versus tank combat, Fireflies were achieving kill ratios of 4-to-1 against Tigers and Panthers. Regular Shermans? Still dying at 4:1 the other way. German after-action reports started mentioning a new Sherman variant with a high-velocity gun. They issued urgent warnings. Engage these tanks first, from maximum range, do not close distance. By August, the Germans had figured it out. They created identification guides. They ordered tank commanders to prioritize Fireflies above all other targets. This made Firefly crews the highest priority targets on the battlefield. Their survival rate dropped, but they kept fighting. Firefly commanders knew they were marked men. The distinctive gun made them targets. But they also knew they were the only ones who could protect the rest of their troop. One Firefly could keep 3 other Shermans alive. One Firefly could stop a German tank assault cold. The crews volunteered anyway. So what made the 17-pounder so deadly? The secret was in the ammunition. Armor-piercing discarding sabot, or APDS. This was cutting-edge technology. A small, ultra-dense tungsten penetrator wrapped in a light aluminum sabot. When fired, the sabot gives the light penetrator massive velocity, nearly 3,000 feet per second. Then the sabot falls away, and this tungsten dart continues at incredible speed. Standard armor-piercing rounds rely on mass and hardness. APDS relies on velocity and density. The result? Could punch through Tiger armor like paper. A standard 75mm Sherman could penetrate 68mm of armor at 500 yards. The 17-pounder? 140mm at 1,000 yards. It wasn't twice as good, it was in a completely different league. But this power came at a cost. Inside the Firefly, space was at a premium. The gun was so long that it had to be removed from the turret to traverse fully. Ammunition was stored vertically due to space constraints, making it vulnerable to hits. The shells were nearly 3 feet long. Loading them required strength and coordination. Rate of fire was slower than a standard Sherman. But it didn't matter, because the Firefly could kill from ranges where German tanks couldn't effectively return fire. It redefined British tank doctrine from brawling to sniping. By the end of the war, over 2,000 Sherman Fireflies had been produced. They served from Normandy to the Rhine. They were there when British tanks entered Berlin. But here's what's remarkable. After the war, the Firefly disappeared from history. Popular culture remembers the Tiger, the Panther, the regular Sherman. But the tank that actually stopped the German armor? Forgotten. American accounts downplayed the Firefly because it highlighted the inadequacy of their own 75mm Shermans. British accounts moved on to focus on Churchill and Cromwell tanks. The Firefly became a footnote. Yet German veterans remembered. In post-war interviews, German tank commanders consistently rated the Firefly as the most dangerous Allied tank they faced. More feared than the Soviet T-34-85. More respected than the American Pershing. When we saw the long barrel, we knew we had to kill it first or die. German Panzer Commander, 1944. The Sherman Firefly proves that wars aren't won by the best technology. They're won by the best use of available technology. Britain couldn't outproduce Germany in heavy tanks. They couldn't match the Tiger's armor. But they could take an available platform, mount an exceptional gun, and create a weapon that terrified the best tank crews in the world. The Germans called it Panzertöter, the tank killer. And that name was earned. So the next time someone tells you the Sherman was a death trap, remind them, there was one Sherman the Germans feared above all others. And it was British.